Hi, everyone. This is Rita Denoyer Garcia of Becoming Awake in the Calm Mom Alliance, and we are continuing our series of Women Helping Women. And today I'm really excited to have my friend Caroline Holke here. She's going to be talking about something that definitely pertains to being a stressed out mom, or any woman really who's stressed out. So I'm excited to start this interview. Welcome, Caroline Holke. I'm going to just read something about you,
Great,
if I
thanks.
may.
Yeah.
So Caroline Holke has always had a pretty good life on paper. Happily married with 2 kids, leadership position in corporate marketing, plenty of good friends and family, but she wasn't quite happy. Boy, that sounds familiar. This led her down the path of self-discovery, and she started examining her relationship with alcohol. And once she figured that out, then she started to look at her corporate career. She is now a drink less coach and helps women get rid of the shitty parts of drinking and create a life that they love. And her work centers on the concept that we are taught what to think, and if we are lucky, how to think with regards to other people's work. But we were never taught that we could apply critical thinking skills to our own thinking. We grow up believing that our thoughts are true. This is great if we have helpful thoughts, but many times they are not. And Caroline has a skill for helping her clients tease out what thoughts are driving any habit that is not helping them. And she works with her clients one-on-one to develop a plan on how to turn the volume down on these thoughts and create a life that they wouldn't dream of numbing out of, which I love that they wouldn't dream of numbing out of. That's great. So I think that's a great introduction to you, but
Yeah.
I'm passing over the baton to you to tell a little more about who you are, how you got started in this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you inviting me here today. It's really nice to have the opportunity to kind of continue our discussions and really just kind of spread my message to other people that may need to be hearing it right now. So let me back up and tell you how everything started for me. I grew up in a household where everybody drank. My parents drank. They were young. They had lots of good friends, and they partied for sure. And not that there's no like tragedy to that story. It's just I saw them having a good time, and so it very quickly became a mesh in my brain that like drinking equals fun. Like that's a math equation.
Right.
And so that's what I started doing at a pretty young age. And I continued, and, everybody else around me was doing the same thing. And so it's like normal. You can't see my air quotes. Well, Rita can, but you guys may not. But so it was quote unquote normal. And that continued through undergrad and my first job and then graduate school and, even having the kids. And then I guess one day I noticed that a girlfriend she was kind of still she was nursing her first, well, not literally nursing, she was nursing her glass. She was still on her first glass of wine. And we were all kind of, or I know I was for sure on my third or whatever it was. And I don't know what it was about that moment, but I noticed it. And it was kind of like a little nudge for me. Like first it was, what's happening here? Then it was why am I noticing that? Like, is something out of alignment? I don't know. So that's kind of where it started. And then it just kind of popped up every now and then. And I didn't change anything about how I was drinking, how I was socializing, how anything, but every now and then it would kind of pop up. And as I paid more attention to it, I started recognizing more about what was going on. And so just like with anything else in life, like what you focus on is what you see. And I started really attributing the fact that I felt groggy in the morning to maybe it was that third glass of wine. I started attributing the fact that I was waking up in the middle of the night and, wondering if I said something wrong, what I said last night or whatever. And nothing was terrible, but it was just kind of the way that I like to describe it is that I kind of felt like I was driving with the emergency brake on. Right. I mean, so the car still works, but it's not going as fast as it should. It's just I don't know, just kind of off. And so then I kind of moved into, in 2016, I became a little more active in that regard. I started reading some books. I started listening to some podcasts. Again, bringing it more into awareness for me. And then I met my coach, and what resonated with me about her message is that she was talking about stop over drinking. I was like, ding, 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 that's it. Like, I don't want to quit drinking. I just want to stop the overing part. I want to like get rid of that emergency brake feeling. I want to go in full speed. And so I started working with her, and that's where I reevaluated my relationship with alcohol, and I got it into a place that I was completely comfortable. I never again said, "Oh, I was overserved last night." That used to be my phrase. Like, "Ooh, something must have happened. The gremlins must have snuck in and poured some
Right.
extra wine or whatever." Right. So I've never said I've been overserved. My last hangover was in 2016, actually. And I continued to drink for a while, but it was just, I had complete faith in myself that I could take it or leave it. I would drink however much I said I would drink when I would drink it. It was fantastic. So once I figured out my relationship with drinking, then I was like, oh, interesting. These same tools actually I could use on so many other goals.
Yeah.
Then I started listening to the nudge that I was getting about my job. And so it was twofold. It was like, first I had been able to accomplish something that was so meaningful in my life in terms of reframing my relationship with alcohol. But then also it kind of gave me the courage. It gave me the presence of mind. It gave me the tools, all that stuff to really question if I was really satisfied with my job. I was like, you know what? At the end of the day, no. And so then I left that job last year. I became a full-time coach. And let me tell you, I am so thrilled that I get to be witness of the transformation that my clients make. I mean, it's just, I think it's just so magical. I'm just thrilled. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell. There's so much more. I could talk about it forever, but that is it. And one of the things that I feel is so important these days is that I know that when I was in the throes of it, I knew that I wasn't an alcoholic. My brother was an alcoholic. I knew what that looked like. And but I did go ahead and I took the test online. I was like, fine. I wasn't an alcoholic. So that meant that the resources that are readily known were not applicable for me.
Yeah.
Right. So AA or rehab wasn't an option. And I knew that didn't feel right anyway. And so that's why working with this coach made really resonate with me. I was like, oh, there's something for me kind of in this middle ground. And I don't think there's a ton of awareness that there are offerings that can help people in that kind of gray area of drinking. And so I'm here and want to let anybody know in your audience that there are options. You don't have to drive with the emergency brake anymore.
Yeah. I love what you said. I love what you talked about changing your relationship to alcohol, because that's a huge idea that I talk about a lot, is changing your relationship to whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, it sounds so familiar. So many things that you said sound familiar to me. So I'm sure it's going to sound familiar to this audience. The other thing that I loved is that, yeah, I don't think until I talked to you, which was not that long ago, that there was stuff in between AA
Mm-hmm.
and whatever, doing your
Mm-hmm.
drinking.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've had my own journey with alcohol that kind of went a little differently, but and so I found this in between place that works for me, but I didn't know that there was services for that. So
Right.
I'm so happy that we found each other on that, because I can think of so many women who are not necessarily alcoholics, but may think they may be because they don't know what they're doing.
Totally. And I think that if I could just tag onto that, I work with smart, successful women who have figured out these really complicated things.
Right.
And then they're like, like, what the hell? Why, if I'm so smart, how come I haven't figured this out?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then they sit in shame
Yeah.
of, and listen, I get it. I get it 1,000%. Like, there's got to be something wrong, and there's not.
Yeah.
It's like the same brain that developed that over desire can learn how to unwind that desire. Like,
Yeah.
it's your brain, it shows that your brain is learning, and you can unlearn that easily.
Yeah. And the shame is
Shame is
such
awful.
I can't tell you how many times there were, that little pebble in your shoe that's getting to you. It feels like a boulder, but it's really the small thing. But because you have shame around it, you don't want to show anyone that the pebble's in there.
Yeah.
And then it just festers and festers and festers, and you feel worse and worse and worse. It really, messes with your mind and with your whole whole body.
Right.
Can we just talk a little bit? I know I want to know who you work with, but I also want to talk about real quickly. Can we just talk a little bit about society's attitude about all this stuff? Because I grew up in a household of, my mother came from an Irish teetotaler household, and my father came from a French wine when you're born household. And our family was fairly alcohol centered. I mean, they would make a joke, like every party ended up in the kitchen. Why? Because that's where the booze is, right?
Right.
And that's where the most fun is. It's a lot of fun.
Right.
Now, no one in my family is an alcoholic, but I would say, myself included, we've had our rocky relationship with alcohol. But I think a lot of it is fostered by society too. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. And I think that I'll definitely talk about alcohol. We live in a drinking society, Western society. I'll say in the US, I work with clients in Canada, in the UK, in France, in Australia, all over the world. The prevailing thought is that you either drink normally, which is drink basically, or you don't. Like, there's nothing in between. And I went to, think about this. Alcohol is the only drug that you have to take in order to prove that you don't have a problem with it.
Right.
I want to be intentionally provocative here, but if you're at a dinner party and somebody offers you heroin, most of the time, most people say, no, I'm not interested. And they don't have any sort of drama about it.
Right.
Right. But I have a client, I've worked with somebody who said, I'm so ashamed. Basically, I don't want other people to know that I think I have a problem with this. Therefore, I'm going to tell them that I'm hungover, and that's why I'm not drinking tonight.
Wow.
Right. It is fascinating what the primitive brain will do in order to protect where we are, and the stories that we create in our head, that I don't want them to know that I have a problem. There are 1,000 different reasons why you're choosing not to drink. People choose not to drink for health reasons. People choose not to drink because they're on medications, or just they don't like it.
You don't like it.
We have it built up that we have to drink in order to prove we don't have a problem, because there's so much shame with having a problem.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that, there's that societal aspect. And then there's also the aspect of, we are not taught how to manage our feelings. We are, as a society, it's very easy to oh God, stressful day, have a drink. Oh, I'm sorry you got hurt, have a cupcake.
Right.
Scroll or shop or do anything. All of those overing behaviors are typically created in order to protect ourselves from feeling negative emotions.
Yeah.
So it's not just over drinking. It's a lot of different things. You can overwork, you can over exercise, you can do a lot of things to kind of avoid your own experience.
Yeah.
And I think we become very good at doing all of those things.
Oh my God, especially in today's society. Yeah. I was watching a TED talk, and the guy was talking about what was it? It wasn't high status, but it was like high quality coping mechanisms and low quality. And the low quality was like over drinking, going online, And the high was more like doing yoga or meditating or moving or just feeling or whatever it is. So I was like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. Okay,
But
so let's,
but at the root of those, oh, sorry, but I get excited about this. But at
yes,
the root
yes,
of those is like, I'm avoiding my experience. It's like, I don't
yes,
trust myself to feel these feelings. And
yeah,
like at the extreme, I can overeat carrots, right? But if I'm doing it because I don't want to feel
right,
uncomfortable or lonely or whatever it is, then it's not productive.
yeah, yeah,
So looking at why I'm doing these things is really helpful. And that's what I do from my, with my clients. It's like, as we try to figure, we get to what's driving these behaviors to begin with. Because it's not just about the drinking. It's like, what's causing the stress to begin with? Let's deal with it at that level.
right.
And that makes it
Absolutely.
more
The
sustainable.
drinking is a presenting problem. It's the way in. Yeah. So what kinds of people seek you out normally?
Yeah. So I work with, typically when somebody starts working with a coach, they've tried a bunch of different things. As we mentioned earlier, most people are not aware that there's even help that's available in this space. But particularly with drinking, because of the shame, because there's low awareness, all that stuff, by the time somebody reaches out to a coach, they've tried books, they've tried podcasts, they've probably even tried a little program here or there before, in the past.
Yeah.
And they're not getting much traction. They've also tried the rules on themselves, which never work because they're just based on willpower.
Mm-hmm.
And our primitive brain kicks in like, oh, well, we can worry about that tomorrow, or let's just finish the bottle and get it in the recycling, all the
Right.
negotiating.
Oh my
knots that,
gosh. Yeah.
So, so by the time they get to me, their self-trust has really taken a beating.
Yeah.
And the women that I work with men too, but typically I work with women. They're smart and successful. They figured so many other things out. So again, their negative self-talk is like in the stratosphere, right? Because of this is like a boulder in their shoe. And they've got so much shame about it.
Yeah.
They don't talk about it. And so many people, I can't even tell you, like it just warms my heart because we'll get on a call, the first call or two, or even actually 5 or 6, they're like, oh, I'm just so happy I can talk to somebody about this.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
like, I can't tell anybody. I can't tell my partner. I can't tell anybody about this. I just feel so ashamed. And I like to think about it, if we take the emotion out of it, if you were biting your fingernails, we wouldn't make a big deal out of it. Like that's a habit too.
Right.
It's not like the most popular thing, but nobody has a lot of shame about it.
Right.
And yet it's a learned behavior. It's, there is some aspect of dopamine. I know it's like maybe apples and oranges, but same idea. Like there's no shame in it anyway. And we can unlearn that the same way.
Awesome. So can you tell us, we obviously wouldn't be betraying any confidences. What kind of results? Give me a success story so people get an idea of what maybe could happen for them.
Yeah. So when we start, like the first meeting that I have with people, we kind of map out what does she want what is her relationship today with alcohol? Like how much is she currently drinking and what does she want it to look like? And then from there, we build kind of a roadmap on how to get there. For some people, it's like, I don't want to drink anymore. I want to not want it. Great. Okay. We can figure that out. Does that mean you want to not want it and then still have a glass of champagne at a wedding or something? I mean, that's how I am now.
Mhm.
I don't order it anymore, but if somebody puts it down and we're having a toast, then I'll toast and I'll have a sip and it's fine. It's like kind of a non-event. Which, by the way, never would have thought that was going to be the case a number of years ago.
Right.
So it is completely possible. Now, and some people will say, I just want to be a social drinker. I want to know that I will never be overserved again. I want to know that I'm not going to wake up the next morning and start beating myself up about how did this happen again? Like, I'm such an idiot, all that shame spiral thing. In terms of results, then once we know what the roadmap is, then we work together for 12 weeks and, and it depends on how many times they are willing to basically go to bat. And what I mean by that is with over drinking, what we want to do is decondition the desire. So we've got an over desire for alcohol. And in order to bring that desire down, just like Pavlov's dogs, okay, the dogs started drooling when they heard the bell. We need to actually allow the urge for drinking and not answer it. Because every time we have an urge for drinking, we can either, it's pretty binary, we can either reinforce that neural pathway or start to unwind it.
Yeah.
So it depends on how willing my clients are to sit, like allow that unwinding to occur. The ones that are really eager and go at it and they're like, I've got, and obviously I coach them and all that kind of stuff, then they get there pretty quickly. Some of them, they're not quite ready yet. So I joke with my clients, like I can't come there and knock the drink out of your hand. Like I can't.
Right. Right.
So
then you just become codependent.
Right.
Yeah. I think that was a big revelation for me. I'm an athlete too. So, and at least in high school I'm less of an athlete than I used to be. So I think that can help in that, well, if you've done anything that takes some effort and determination, but it's the idea that just because you have the urge, you don't have to feed it. You don't have to do that thing that normally you would do, that you're going to get to the other side of it eventually. It's not going to be there forever. I think that's something I learned as an athlete, that like you can walk through discomfort, or if you keep doing this thing, it's going to get easier over time. It's not going to always be like, oh my God, I can't believe it,
Right. Yeah. And to add to that, like the resistance that we have to feeling the urge.
Yeah.
Because of the stories that we have about like, oh, it's going to be awful. It's going to be so uncomfortable, this, that, and the other thing. Like that's making the urge worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like holding a beach ball underwater. You can do it for a little bit
all the time. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. It's just going to
like,
go boop.
Yeah. And it goes up a lot higher.
Yeah.
I mean, it just makes it worse.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go back to, we don't know, we're not taught how to handle negative emotions. And an urge is essentially a negative emotion. It's that urgency in your body.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember the first thing my coach said to me, like one of the first exercises he ever gave me, and I always go back to it, is I want you to feel whatever you're feeling. For me, it was anxiety. I want you to just feel it and not do anything about it. Just feel it. Just feel it. Watch it go up and go down, because you never let it go down. You just do something to try to make it not go up anymore. And that's the issue. And boy, that was quite a challenge. And I remember thinking, I'm going to have a heart attack. This is really strong. And then eventually went down.
Yeah.
But I had to feel it over and over and over and not do the usual stuff. And that was really hard.
Yeah.
But I did it,
But how many times, how long did it take? I'm just curious. How long did it take practicing that until it kind of clicked?
I would say like a week or so, maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It was relatively short.
That's good. That's good.
And
I mean, I know,
yeah.
I was just going to say, I remember so vividly the first time I actually allowed an urge, and it's so funny. I tell the story all the time, but I was standing at the kitchen sink and I just kind of let it come in. I like felt it. And it's this like restless energy and that was running through my body, and 90 seconds later it went away, and I thought, oh my God, I can't believe I've been doing all of this stuff to avoid this. Like, come on.
I know. Yeah. What we thought was a mountain was a molehill. Yeah.
Yeah.
And women really underestimate also their ability to do things. And I'm like, we have babies. Right? Somehow we managed to keep the species going. And that takes a lot of energy and commitment and wherewithal and, the whole Megillah. So if you can have a baby, or you can ride a bicycle, or you can get a job, or you can get out of bed, you have the ability to get through this. And I think we forget that.
Yeah, we do. But, I think that there's a lot to be said about the messaging.
Yeah.
that we were receiving. It's like, well, and some of it's very subtle with the whole mommy wine culture recently. It's like,
Yes.
I mean, if you really think about, I come from a marketing background, and so I kind of geek out on what the consumer insight there is. But a lot of that consumer insight is the belief that I can't handle it unless I'm drinking.
Yes.
Like I can't
Yes.
handle my stress,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
And that's just, and I don't think anybody really, if they consciously think about it, that they really want to believe that. But so many of us, we buy into that, like, oh, we laugh and like pass the memes around and this, that, and the other thing. And
Right.
right. And so we are participating in that whole thing. And
Yeah. Very
I don't know
much
that we really want to.
the mom wine culture is very, yeah. I think part of it is also because I very much felt that way. I remember my chiropractor doesn't drink at all. He's like never drunk ever, I think. And I kept thinking, oh, how sad. How does he have fun?
I know. Yeah.
To myself. I didn't say that to
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
because I thought the world was going to be black and white. I thought I was like, it was just going to get dulled.
Mm-hmm.
And now I realized, actually not.
Right. What has your experience been?
So my experience has been, and I'm in that category, I would say, of an occasional glass of wine sometime. It'd have to be, but at this point, it's going to have to be a pretty special occasion because I've been able to walk through all these different reasons, all these different occasions where normally I would say, this is the special occasion. And I was like, nope.
Yeah.
I kept, next one. And there was never a next one. I think I did tell you I went to a cocktail party and I felt, I mean, it was fun, but I felt so bad the next day, so bad that I thought, nope.
Yeah.
I'll figure out another strategy. I'll fill my glass up with water or bring some seltzer or something, and I can still have a good time. But so my experience has been, I have more energy. The after effects of all of it are so much better than the temporary slippy slidey that I had the night before. And I can still have fun that night and not worry about driving and not worrying about how I'm going to have a headache or not be able to sleep or whatever, fill in the blank.
Any of that stuff. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
But I needed support. I couldn't do it on my own. I needed, I mean, I did through a program, but you're the program, right? So so I wanted to ask you, obviously this is applicable to stressed out moms.
Definitely.
Since that whole culture. And if you're a professional mom, meaning you go outside or you have a business and you're with the kids, it may even go up to 11, as if you will, on the drinking. So my question to you is, do you have like a takeaway for people, like a simple, easy thing that they could take away from this conversation and go, oh, I could implement that?
Yeah, I've got a couple of different ideas there. First is, I really like the idea of tuning into the negotiating thoughts when they come up. So say, for example, you've made a commitment to yourself that you're not going to drink Monday night, whatever. It's Monday, so we'll say Monday night. But you get home and the boss was kind of a jerk and the kids are kind of freaking out, whatever. What I would offer is notice those negotiating thoughts. And I love the fact that we're talking to moms here because your kids have great negotiating like thoughts, right? They know exactly what buttons to push. Yeah. So does your primitive brain. Your primitive brain wants you to go back to familiar behaviors, right? And so if you just kind of key into that, just from a total curiosity standpoint, it's fascinating the things that you can learn about yourself. And just that little bit of a pause. And, maybe you decide to drink and that's fine, but just capture that data. I think it's fascinating the things that could come up because everybody's a little bit different. Your buttons are going to be a little different than mine are, that are going to be different from anybody else's. And that's totally fine. But the more you can really embrace that idea of curiosity, and indulge me for a second, because I was talking to a client the other day and I was trying to kind of create this picture of curiosity. And I want you to imagine back in those days, or even today, whatever it is, if you had this kind of bubble of time where you could do whatever you wanted to do. You didn't have any outside pressure. I know this is like magic land, right? But you don't have any time pressure. You're with like a toddler or maybe a 4 or 5-year-old, I don't know. And you're out by a creek. And this kid is like turning over every rock and just totally examining everything. And everything's so magical to this kid. And you can kind of get into that headspace, like you're there with that kid. That's the kind of curiosity, which is not easy to like foster all the time, but like we can all kind of think of that. You can always, you can kind of feel that in your body, like those magical times when the stars align and you're there with the kid and like loving it. Like the more that we can generate that curiosity about ourselves and our own experience, oh my gosh, it's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. You learn more about yourself. And that's really something that helps me so much. Like, what can I learn about myself? Like, here I am 52 and I'm learning stuff all the time. And isn't it, it's cool.
Yeah. So it sounds like observing and being really present, going deep in the moment instead of just staying on top and horizontally and going from one thing to the next thing, but really feeling, embracing all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I do have a number of tools. I think you've got links to, I've got a craving hack meditation, which I know that it was really helpful for me. And so that's something that I would definitely recommend if you want to kind of interrupt that moment. But so there are a lot of different things that I can offer. There's a whole free resources tab on my website that I'll give you the link to.
Okay.
And if I can mention it, I'm having a wine-free work week challenge this week, which is free. It's a pop-up Facebook group. It's not going to be there forever and it's totally private and all that stuff. And so if it's just something that you're curious about at all, maybe the stars are aligning right now that you can come join us.
So I'm going to put all those links in the description, but what's the name of the Facebook group if people want to jump on?
Yeah, it's the Wine-Free Work Week Challenge.
Wine-Free Work Week Challenge.
Yep.
All right, excellent. So they can look that up and I'll put I think that we have that somewhere.
I think I came up with it since the last time I talked to you. So.
All right, cool. So thank you so much for this time together. We could talk forever on this subject.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you can go really deep because so much of this is overlapping to, like you said, applicable to so many areas of your life.
Yeah.
So, but if you're out there, stressed out professional moms, and if alcohol is one of those things that you feel any shame around, or it's bothering you, or you feel like you don't know what to do about it, connect with Caroline. I think she could really help you. You've helped a lot of people already.
Yeah.
So it's been a pleasure. And do you want to have anything to say before we close up shop here?
Yeah. Well, thank you for the opportunity, first and foremost. And to your listeners, just that there is nothing wrong with you. I just want you to know that there's definitely, as long as you have a human brain, that's my only caveat. As long as you have a human brain, then we can unlearn all this stuff. And so I'd be really honored to be with you on this journey.
Excellent. Caroline Holke, thank you.
Thank you.